I'm S.A. Bradley, and welcome to Hellbent for Horror, a podcast devoted to all things related to horror, where I remind you that you used to love horror movies, and you secretly still do. No live organism can continue for long to exist sanely under conditions of absolute reality. Even larks and katydids are supposed, by some, to dream. Hill House, not sane, stood by itself against the hills, holding darkness within. It had stood so for 80 years, and might stand for 80 more. Within, walls continued upright, bricks met neatly, floors were firm, and doors were sensibly shut. Silence lay steadily against the wood and stone of Hill House, and whatever walked there, walked alone. That's the famous first paragraph to Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House. And yes, I'm one of those weird people that absolutely loves that paragraph. Now, the reason I love it is because it doesn't try to overtly scare you. Instead, it works patiently and carefully to build a sense of dread. The paragraph builds on the emptiness of Hill House, the silence of Hill House, the loneliness of Hill House. And within that silent loneliness, Shirley Jackson suggests to us that something insane, something evil, hides in there. It is something that endlessly and timelessly walks the halls alone. And like the insane, it is oblivious to you, unless you make the mistake of crossing its path. And all it would take to cross this thing's path is to enter Hill House. Now, this is so effective because Shirley Jackson sets up the idea that just because things might seem normal and ordinary doesn't mean they really are. Some places, no matter what your eyes tell you, just feel weird, creepy, uncanny. There are places that seem to exist between the here and there, where anything can happen. The liminal plane, where worlds intersect, where all kinds of ghoulies and ghosties get to play with each other. These are better known as haunted houses or haunted places, and just about every town in the world has one. And for many of us, venturing to the haunted house or the haunted place is a childhood rite of passage. And here, in the United States, it is Halloween, October 31st, Samhain. It's the night where some believe that the membrane between the spirit world and our world is at its thinnest, and we can walk with the spirits in the liminal world, at least for one night. And across the country, people make their own haunted houses to pretend they're playing with the ghosts and the monsters too. These haunted houses are not subtle like Shirley Jackson's paragraph. They aren't even remotely trying to hide the uncanny or the scary. In fact, these haunters revel in it. And I am one of those crazy people who use the month of October to turn my front yard into a haunted place. I will say the work may have gotten a little out of hand. I have a cemetery in the front yard with realistic tombstones and some Easter Island heads, and I have the dead crawling out of the ground. But I also have a ghostly murder scene on my roof with ghosts that glow, and the entire side of my house is a wall of hanging skulls. And I also have a demonic baby in an old pram. Oh, and floating full-size ghosts on zip lines that move on the wind that travel in and out of the graveyard. And 3 or 4 severed heads. Oh, and there's the giant spider and the dead body in a cocoon that dangles above the driveway. And the weeping angel, that's right, the weeping angel. And the hellhound that breathes fire. And several fog machines. A lot of theater lighting. Did I mention the severed heads? Now that I think of it, there might be a few more severed heads around the hedges. I think I just overshared. I know, it sounds crazy, and yes, it is a lot of work. But to be honest, it's kind of therapeutic for me. I get to use my hands to build things that are in my imagination. And it might sound crazy, but it's become a ritual. an offering given up to my neighborhood. Hundreds of kids and their parents come to laugh and scream and admire my madness. This is the time of year that just about everyone likes to be just a little scared, a little thrilled. So, I went on a tour of some haunted attractions in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I talked to some of the ghouls and the ghosts that love to put on a spooky show for others. So, sit back, turn off the lights, and see if I raise your Halloween spirits a little. Now, San Francisco is a town that, if you're looking for something different, you can find it. There are a lot of genre communities here, like sci-fi and fantasy and mystery and steampunk and gaming. But San Francisco isn't usually thought of as a horror town. Until October comes, that is. In October, San Francisco becomes a month-long celebration of Halloween. And one of the newest celebrations in the city is an extreme haunted house created by Into the Dark Productions. The immersive show is called Terror Vault. And the haunt is performed inside the old San Francisco Federal Mint, one of the oldest buildings in the city. Now, this isn't the kind of haunted house the local Elks Club or county fair puts on. This is an event where you might just get grabbed, or smeared with fake blood, or get chased down a dark hall by a possessed nun, or maybe even some kind of lizard man. How do I know all this? Because I had the pleasure of exploring the Terror Vault myself. The old San Francisco Mint is located downtown south of Market Street, which is the main strip of old San Francisco. The Mint building is nicknamed the Granite Lady. It sits atop a shelf of granite, which kept thieves from digging tunnels to steal the gold and silver. And it's one of the few buildings that were left standing after the 1906 earthquake and firestorm. And at the time of the 1906 fires, it housed 1/3 of the nation's gold reserves. The old Mint closed in 1937 when a newer and bigger building opened in another part of town. And the old Mint building, a big Greek temple with Doric columns, was declared a historical landmark. And then it sat empty. It sat empty while the neighborhood around it changed. And the neighborhood changed into a place that is not always safe to walk at night. And maybe, just maybe, that old building soaked in some of that danger, soaked in some of that crazy. The night I go to visit the Terror Vault haunt, the Doric columns on the front of the building are bathed in purple and orange lights. The Mint has an intimidating set of marble stairs, and you can see everyone feels nervous as they slowly climb up to the entrance of the haunt. The building itself was renovated years earlier by the city, and it is a beautiful sight inside. However, tonight, the chandeliers and the hall lights glow with red bulbs. Now, before we arrived, all patrons were warned to wear clothes that they didn't mind getting stained and to not keep valuables on their person. So the coat check is getting brisk business. We are in groups, scheduled at different times, and each person is given a wristband by group. My wristband tells me that I am a goblin. We goblins are asked to wait in the bar until we are called. The bar itself is a throwback to the 1920s. Jazz music plays over the speakers, and the bartenders all look like Lloyd from The Shining. The silent movie Haxan, Witchcraft Through the Ages, is projected on the wall, and I have to say, it sets a tone. The only time the 1920s vibe is broken is when the announcer walks into the bar and calls for the next group. Flesh eaters, please line up outside. Your tour is ready to start. When it was time for us, the goblins, we lined up in front of a huge door in the hallway. As at that time, I started to notice all the security guards. Security guards were nearby, and they looked grim. And it was eerily quiet. And it was about that time that my imagination started to run away with me. This is an extreme haunt. What does that mean? What was I in for? Was this going to be like Blackout, or Heretic in LA, where I'm tossed out into an alley in my underwear and someone throws my bloody clothes out behind me? I didn't think so, but this was a 21 and older show, and this is San Francisco. Did I need a safe word? The large door opens, and we are herded into a room. And what we see there is the lobby to the Museum for the Old Mint. The lights are dim, but we can see the information kiosks about San Francisco history placed tastefully through the large room. And suddenly, a figure appears. It is a docent, dressed in a museum uniform, replete with a name tag. She's all smiles, and she talks in that happy sing-song of someone paid to be excited about unexciting things. And she starts talking about the history of the Mint and the history of the city of San Francisco. Does anyone here know what happened here in 1906? We're all a little confused, and it takes a while for someone to say, earthquake? She smiles. That's right. There was an earthquake. The docent continues to rattle off banal facts about the city and the building itself until she lines us up in front of a pile of hay bales. Hay bales with plastic wall-marked jack-o'-lanterns on them. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. At this point, she asks us if we want to opt into the full immersion for the haunt. That means that we can be grabbed and prodded and forced to perform in the scenario. If we want to opt in, we need to wear a glow stick necklace to single us out in the dark. Everyone in our group opts in, and the docent seems overjoyed with this, and then she continues with a history lesson. However, she tells us, she's about to give us some little-known history about the Mint. After the earthquake, many of the jails were destroyed and convicts were running loose in the chaos. Police and militias rounded them up. Since the Mint was one of the few buildings left intact, the hundreds of vaults in the catacombs of the basement were used as cells. And in the frenzy of dealing with a major disaster that was burning down the city, the convicts were forgotten. Many of them never saw the light of day again. And then, as she leads us down staircases into the lower levels of the building, in areas that have not yet been remodeled, where the only light are lamps that are held on by cords, there is wallpaper peeling. She tells us about some of the famous convicts who were left to die in the vaults. A doctor who sewed animal parts to his victims. A party clown who killed his audience with gas, and other atrocious killers. And when we get down to the dank, dimly lit basement, we realize that she's been bleeding under her shirt the whole time. And she looks up and she yells out to someone we don't see. I did what you told me to. I brought them. Now let me out of here. And she pulls up the side of her shirt, and she has a gaping wound there. It's a bite mark. Something bit her and took a chunk out of her. And she looks at us and says, run. Find your way out of here. They are coming. And what follows is a 45-minute adventure that has you being chased by the spirits of forgotten murderers as you try to find your way out of a nightmare. This is a haunt where, if you wear a glow stick necklace, monsters will put their hands on you, and you will probably get a little fake blood on you. Ghouls pop out of the walls and grab someone, and then the rest of the group gets scattered in different directions, and people in your group just disappear. But you won't be violently thrown to the ground or choked out or waterboarded like some extreme haunts go. There is blood and there is loud noise, but it's done with wit and a sense of humor that balances out the scares. This is an extended chase in an elaborate maze that has surreal stage plays around every corner that you are thrust into. The production value is above average, and the actors are great. They can be menacing without histrionic shouting, and they don't resort to the idea that louder is scarier. With all of that, the most effective moment comes when the building itself is used to haunt you all by itself. There is a moment when you are left alone in the catacombs of vaults made up of rooms that lead into more rooms. And there are rows upon rows of dungeon-like cells. And amongst all of this darkened maze, you need to find your way out. And then the lights go out. You need to do it in the complete darkness. But you're not alone. While you feel around the walls of the rooms, some of the rooms have creatures that wait for you to enter. And although you can't see them, they can see you. After the haunt, I was able to speak with the creators of Terror Vault, Joshua Grinnell and David Flowers. Joshua is a filmmaker and playwright and event producer, and the internationally acclaimed drag performer Peaches Christ. David Flower has been creating amazing theater productions for 25 years, and now he brings his talent into the immersive theater experience. We got to talk about why we build these shrines to our fears and why we find it so much fun. Now, Josh and David could only take the time to talk to me via Skype from the old Mint building itself, so I apologize for any inconsistencies in sound here. Let me start by saying how much fun Terror Vault is. I brought a friend who was not a horror fan. She did not tell me that until we were on our way there, and I have to say she was absolutely over the moon with the show because you have the great amount of haunts and scares, but there's also this wonderful wit.
Well, I think when David and I partnered up last summer and realized we were going to do this, we knew that we wanted to do a show that was a mashup of all the things we love. So sure, definitely haunted mazes with jump scares. We love that. But we also knew that it had to be more than that. And so that's where the theatrical narrative part of it sort of came into play. We knew we wanted it to tell a story. When, of course, we realized we were going to be staging it at the old San Francisco Mint building, then we knew it had to be site-specific. The story would take place at the Mint. And I really love shows, and especially with my own shows here in San Francisco, where the audience is fully engaged. There's no fourth wall. You're not a passive spectator. And so for this narrative, it was, a tour group of the Mint basically learns about some of its spooky history. They find out that the Mint was once used secretly as a prison. And then that tour group ends up going unexpectedly into a journey through hell. And, that way you are part of the narrative. The tour group is actually really the lead character in this show. And you have to make decisions. The performers can see you. They know you're there. They're engaging with you. You're a character in the show. And so that, I think, in a lot of ways is what makes it different.
But I think there's something about comedy and horror that work together. And I think there's a great balance between this. How do you guys work with comedy and horror to make sure that one doesn't overpower the other? David?
Yeah, I think that it is it's a fine line, and it's a difficult balance. I do think that both Josh and I have a pretty good sense of humor. So it's not hard for us to write, a scene that we knew was going to be really scary, followed by a scene that we knew we would get some laughs out of. And I totally agree with you. I think that, for the experience to feel very full and balanced, I think as scared and maybe as loud as you're going to scream, you also may want to laugh at that hard.
Well, I think we both love horror movies. And to that point, I think we both love horror movies that have a sense of humor. So I think for us, things like The Evil Dead, certainly, Rosemary's Baby, and some of the more satanic stuff, we pulled influences from, and we really pulled a lot of the influence from the history of San Francisco. So if you've ever read the book, The Season of the Witch,
yes,
that book is like a great reference for the dark history of San Francisco, and we used characters in that book and then mashed them up with horror movie characters and just, our own imagination. And so the influences kind of probably honestly aren't even known to us. And even today, I'll be watching a movie that I love or a movie that I loved as a kid, and I'll see something and go, oh my God, that's where I got that from.
So first kisses. I like to talk about the first kiss of horror. What's the movie that was your first kiss that put you down this terrible path? David?
Oh God, I guess this is going to like show my age, but The Tingler.
That scared me to death.
And Scare Me to Death and The Blob. Those are my two number one. Like those were like when I went to the movies and got really scared, and I kind of liked it. Scary. It was like, wait, that scared me. Wait, I think I like that.
How about yourself, Josh?
The earliest that I can remember was back when you could rent movies from the library. Right. Believe it or not, you could rent old VHS movies. And a friend's parent let them rent Psycho, the Alfred Hitchcock movie. And I was a really little kid, and I had never seen anything like it. You know, it was just totally shocking and amazing. And, you know, it's queer, and there's even some transvestism wrapped into it. So who knows how much that movie effed me up. I don't know. And shortly after that, I sought out and secretly watched the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I think that sort of sealed the deal.
Is there a haunt? Is there a part of a haunt when you were a kid that scared you that's in this haunt? Did you take some of that old memory and put it in here?
You know, I think as a kid, I was really hard to scare, truthfully. And so it's even hard to pick a moment. But I will say that a lot of what you experienced were parts of my past experiences in haunts when I was a kid. I might have recreated some of those scenes, but like I said, I was one of those kids that never got scared. Like nothing scared me.
I was the opposite. I was scared by everything, and movies, haunts, the haunted mansion. As a kid, I would fully give myself over. And the haunt that I grew up worshiping was called Morbid Manor. And I went to it all the time. I worshiped that. I was obsessed with it. And so I think the spirit of this haunt is very similar in my mind to Morbid Manor, where it's actually the thought of going into it is scarier than the reality. And then when you get inside, you realize it's going to be fun and you're going to be scared, but we're going to make you laugh.
Mine was Brigantine Castle in Brigantine, New Jersey.
Jersey Shore. I love that place. I was obsessed with it as a child. I would cry when my parents went.
I understand that. And you mentioned how you are very aware of whether people are getting too deep into the immersion, and you actually have glow necklaces for people to opt in to being touched and grabbed and given the extra scare. Do you think that there's a different energy to the audience that opts in versus those that just want to walk through?
Yes, but it's also different depending on the person. So I think the idea, partly what I've noticed is people who don't opt in are surprised when they're still scared. You know, where it's like, just because you didn't opt in doesn't mean we're not going to scare you. And then for the people that do opt in, I think more than what actually happens to them, they're so psychologically worried about what might happen to them that there's this heightened tension. And, you know, I don't want to give too much away, but in my scene, it's very obvious that something's going to happen. And there's this sort of slow build to something. And the people with those red necklaces are looking over their shoulder. They're looking under their feet. You really see them freaking out. And what's hilarious is, of course, nothing's going to happen to you. You know, it's safe. But because you're wearing that red necklace, it's almost like, oh my God, something could happen. You know,
we've had actually interesting too. We've had people like say, "Thank you for doing it," because now they know if they don't wear the necklace, no one's going to touch them.
So it's a whole weird new kind of world of performance.
Do you find that there's like people who opt in and then immediately opt out about halfway through? Is it like a big pile of glowing necklaces in a corner somewhere?
Oh yeah, each scene I think is doing a collection, and we're going to have a contest to see has the highest amount of drop necklaces in their scene.
Certainly, everyone compares at the end of the night.
Yeah,
and you know, really, people's minds are actually our best tool as far as scaring folks. Better than anything we could actually do. It's just creating an anticipation of something. It's a safe way to exercise anxiety. And I think the popularity of the genre world and, you know, this sort of theater is due in part because of people feeling disconnected due to technology and social media or whatever, feeling not really connected to other people, as well as just being afraid of the world.
So let's continue our journey to haunted and otherworldly places. Hey, it's Halloween, so we go big or we go home. Of course, why not go big? So let's end up at the mansion that Time magazine listed as one of the top 10 most haunted locations in the world. The mansion is the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, California. This is the infamous house built by Sarah Winchester, the heiress to the Winchester rifle fortune. She was convinced that she was haunted by the ghosts of everyone killed by the family rifles. So she kept adding rooms onto the house to hide from them. She did that for 38 years. But the mansion isn't the only mysterious and otherworldly presence on the land today. Before we go into the mansion, let's take a look around the grounds. For 16 nights in October, there is a new apparition on the grounds. It's called the Mystic Midway, a phantasmal traveling carnival that doesn't just invite you into its tents. It also asks you to join the show for the night. Who knows? Maybe you'll stay forever. The Mystic Midway is an immersive theater project that creates a place where different realities mix together. I got to speak with Mystic Midway co-creators Scott Levkoff and Marty Kaplan, as well as some of the performers, who play unique versions of old archetypes in an old tradition that is full of myth. The Midway.
You will pretend to mimic the images opposite you.
Well, my character is the Hobo King. My character name is Stitch Patch.
Hello, my name is Sarah. I go by the performance artist name Misconception, and tonight I'm going to be the Swamp Witch, and I will be hosting the Web of Fears.
Bonsoir, readers at home, listeners. I am nobody. You got some fears for me? I mean, I'm talking to you, yeah, you. You got some fear for me? Take that fear. Ooh.
And Mr. Nobody himself, live in his bony person.
Bonsoir!
That booming voice you heard spouting French and asking if you had any fears is Mr. Nobody, a glowing skeleton that wears a white tuxedo and top hat and has one glowing green eye to pick you out of a crowd. Mr. Nobody is voiced by Mystic Midway co-creator Scott Levkoff. Mr. Nobody is the face of the Mystic Midway here underneath the shadow of the Winchester Mystery House. So, we're here at this place where we have a haunted house, right? We have this big house, the Winchester Mystery House. And, that's full of myth. What do you think the haunted place has been a symbol of for centuries?
Haunted places, I've been fascinated and drawn to them because they seem like portals, places of communication, where we can really tune in, and you can maybe learn and meet. I don't know. It's hard to say why, It's just always called to me. It's always called to me. Haunted places called to me. Lonely, isolated places. There's an intense beauty and peace to these places. Well, I've had experiences of non-bodied beings, spirits. I've encountered ghosts before. I've done a lot of work, dreaming work, and traveling into liminal, and using plant medicines, and just really seeing how intensely permeable the world is, how the universe is.
So you bring up something very interesting. You talk about liminal space, liminal place, the place that is not here nor there. It seems to be in that spot, kind of like the veil is talked about. And midway, you're midway. Mm-hmm. And it's not lost on me that we are in the shadow of a very large mansion that people consider a scary or a haunted place. But you are the portal. If they're going to go there, they come to the Midway. So can you give me an idea of what you think that the Midway symbolizes?
The Midway was designed to be a nexus point, a communication, kind of a nexus for for learning and for growth and for discovery, for light, for darkness, for all of them to mingle. And the characters of the Midway, which is this kind of canon of characters and archetypes and locations that we've been building and playing and kind of inhabiting for a while now. The Midway welcomes everyone and everything. Always welcoming to anything, anyway. I want people, from different walks, to come together to be able to experience moments of awe, of wonder, of beauty, of self-reflection. Because creating the Midway and hosting the Midway is also a personal alchemical experience for me. And I feel like if I'm not doing the work that I'm asking of the guests, of insight and reflection, that I'm just, snake oil salesman, right? And this has definitely been a powerful journey for me in that regard. And this space as a liminal dreaming space, as a space out of time, even though we're right here in downtown San Jose, this place has a weird, dreaming magic to it. Like, at sunset, at dusk, when the guests leave, and, there's just one janitor and a security guard cruising around, doing the thing, this place, it breathes. It has this presence that is just undescribable. And I really came thinking, okay, I'm not going to project anything. I'm just going to just be open to see. And I'm really, it continues to kind of reveal these, subtle, kind of deep, strange kind of exhalations, and what we do here is fortune tellers and the games and the roving characters. Mr. Nobody eating fears, we're on the outside.
Glad you brought up Mr. Nobody, because one of the things that I think is interesting about, we know the Midway, or we know the sideshow, or we know the carnival from a modern perspective, but it's actually a pretty old perspective. You have the characters here, a fortune teller, you have magician, you have the MC. So when you have these characters, what do you think these archetypes are about? And what I'd love to do is start with Mr. Nobody, because he's kind of the MC, right?
Yeah, Mr. Nobody is kind of large and in charge here. I mean, he's on the poster and t-shirt, right? Mr. Nobody's Mystic Midway. Check it out on our Etsy site, Mystic Midway. Yeah, he's an ally that came to me over 20 years ago. And though I'm not sanctioned or I am initiated, voodoo, he is Loa. He's a voodoo Loa. And he showed up a long time ago and kept showing up and kept showing up and kept showing up until I was like, okay, I'm going to honor you in my art. But Mr. Nobody is, he eats fear and he loves it. He can't get enough fear. So he goes around to the guests and asks them, it's like, oh, I smell me some fear. You got some fear? What do you got? What do you got? Give me something good. Give me something good. Yeah. Oh, come on. What do you got for me now? And he'll take his bony fingers and reach and they'll take it and pluck it out of their mouth and he'll eat it. So it's this ritual, that we go on. And, I think he's an ally. And I don't know, I think archetypes are allies. They're consciousness that have been around, and who knows how all of it really works. But he gives me strength and courage to do things that I couldn't normally, And when I come out of nobody, my consciousness is completely shifted. And he takes me into liminal space, when we ride together, we travel together, we're eating fears and going and hugging kids and, helping them face the darkness and realize that, just because something looks scary doesn't mean that it's actually bad or evil.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Tonight, you have the Mystic Midway cards to tell your fortune. This is a small stack of cards that packs a punch. And within the deck are various characters and archetypes that will demonstrate to you where you are in your life journey, as well as here on the Midway.
So you have a fear eater, one of the archetypes. Let's talk about a few of the other characters that are here. There's Lady Fortuna, correct?
Yeah, Lady Fortuna is the seer, and Lady Fortuna represents insight and intuition. And in the Midway, the pantheon, or the range of archetypes, it's suggested that they're all within us. And so Lady Fortuna is a reflection.
How about other characters that you've got?
Yeah, we've got the Dark Harlequins, and the Dark Harlequins are kind of like a Heyoka. They're trickster, and they walk between permission and forgiveness, light and dark. They're definitely like trickster Harlequins. The Hobo King is he's a collector of stories, but the Hobo King is sort of he's the gatekeeper. He's kind of Legba, you have to pass the gate, give him something old for something gold. And he sets you up on your journey going into the Midway.
Another character on the Mystic Midway is the snake oil salesman, who is played by co-creator Marty Kaplan. Marty is also a game maker, and he adds a special interactive touch to the Midway.
The snake oil salesman, classic character from ages old. I mean, all the way back to anybody who's going to like try and trick you into buying a cure for what ails you. Well, I mean, you could say right here in Silicon Valley, there's a lot of those folks.
Right.
That character is about making you examine what's valuable to you. And so any interaction with that character, like for instance, the quest that you'd go on, you pay a wood nickel and go on a quest and run around and find out more about that character. Well, that's what you learn. One thing I do for the Midway is design games. And so this iteration presented a very fun opportunity because there's lots of locations in the grounds of the house. And people naturally explore around the house before they go into the tour. So we made a set of quests that sort of channel the different characters of the Midway and use symbols from their experiences. So, for instance, the snake oil salesman has a quest, and you go and look for alchemical symbols drawn in ultraviolet chalk, hidden in places around the grounds of the house. So, something somebody's already doing. They are basically making a little bit of a game of it, and they win a prize at the end. They're also exposed to occult content that is very intentional, and yet it's just a game. And that is really the Midway in a nutshell.
Hello there. Welcome to the Mystic Midway. We're on a quest, the snake oil salesman's quest for alchemical symbols here at the Winchester Mystery House. Join me, won't you? Our magic lantern will find some mysterious symbols. All sorts of interesting locations here. Some of them have... Aha! I think we found one of them. Let's check. Oh, yes. And that's one of 4. Next on, let's go find... Further out in the garden, we'll find more.
What do you think that magic does for people? What do you think it cures that ails us right now?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. For myself, and as a practice of what we do here, it's about being of service. The Midway is a form of social magic, social artistry, in which everybody comes and they can, leave their brushstroke. I think there's something rejuvenating and renewing about ritual. I think we've needed it forever, probably, and the ritual of coming together, to celebrate, life and death. But I wanted to get back to something about the Midway.
Sure.
That's important to me. There's something beautiful about the profane nature of circuses and carnivals.
Yes.
There's something about the artifice. I like showing the artifice in the Midway. It's such a reflection of the nature of reality. Just like everything is can fall apart at any minute.
Yep.
Everything is kind of terrible and awful, yet magic persists.
After crossing over to the liminal world with the Mystic Midway, it was now time to enter one of the 10 most haunted houses in the world, the Winchester Mystery House. In October, the mansion is open to special candlelight tours. I got my ticket for the midnight walk. I was allowed to record audio while I was in the mansion, and what I'm about to play for you is undoctored audio. I added no special effects.
Keep your eyes and your ears open and stay as silent as you can as you begin to see this house has its own unique personality. This house was built by Sarah Party Winchester shortly after her husband, William Wirt Winchester, died. Now, as you walk the hallways through this house, you notice odd details, such as windows on the floor, staircases to nowhere, and doors of every odd shape and size. This house is not only a historical marvel, but a vortex of ectoplasmic energy. But remember, spirits are very mercutio. Some will appear with eerie regularity, while others are more elusive. Earlier this year, we required a set of 13 doors, come to be known as the Asher Collection, made by Mr. Dane Asher, who was hired by Sarah to curate and design 13 unusual doors, which are reported to comprise an occult ritual, one intended with communicating with the dead. Now, although we do not fully understand how this ritual works, We have painstakingly restored all 13 doors to their rightful place in Mrs. Winchester's manor. And tonight I will be showing you the legacy of the 13 doors. So, let this candle guide us through the dark. But mind your surroundings. As you begin to see, this house will reveal its secrets to you. But only if you behave. So please follow me. We will be passing through a series of narrow passageways and pass another piece of the Astor Collection's doors. Now this door, the Spectre door, is, well, how do I put it lightly? Well, if you open this door, you'll be able to look into a world other than our own. The void, you might say. The place where the dead still roam. But this door comes with a warning. Those who look too long run the risk of the dead staring back. Now, the dead longing to finish their mortal business will latch on the unfortunate observer and haunt them for the rest of their pathetic lives. So please, as we pass by, please, well, don't look too long into the Spectre door, or, well, you may just run the risk of bridging the gap between this world and the next. Now, please, follow me. Please follow me now into Sarah Winchester's main bedroom.
Oh, dear.
Oh, snap. So many dolls.
She is.
Oh my god, it's alive.
What's alive? Oh, she's alive.
She's alive. She will. She is.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mary Liddick. I'm one of the house psychics here at the Winchester Mystery House. I explain its many secrets. You're standing in Sarah's bedroom, but it's not just her room. It's the room that she died in. September 5th, 1922. And all around you can see various toys and playthings that delight children of the Victorian age. Now, some say that Sarah herself had purchased these for her only daughter, Annie. Sadly, poor Annie passed away when she was just a few weeks old. That, and then the death of her beloved husband, William, sent Sarah into a spiral of mourning. I digress. You know of the Asher collection, correct? The doors?
Yes.
Now, in that collection, we found this box. But it's not like the rest. It's not a door. It didn't come with a name. It has no description. But it did come with an occupant.
Hi.
This Bavarian porcelain doll was the finest of its day. Exquisite detail, real human hair, and meticulous dressmaking. Now, we're not entirely sure who owned this doll or why it was part of this collection, though some do say it might have also been Annie's. But as you wander throughout the mansion, you may better... Do you hear that? Seems like we have a visitor. There, child, it's okay. Wherever you are. You can come out and play. It's okay, we won't hurt you. Please don't hurt us. Oh, It seems that the doll has gone missing. I suggest you get going. I don't want anything happening to you.
Yes, let's move.
Yes.
Moving forward. There's no getting out now.
Welcome into the seance chamber. This was a very private room. Sarah was the only one who had the key to it. It is also known as the heart of the house. Now Sarah would come into this room all by herself and talk to the spirit to give the unearthly plans for building this house. So it is no wonder that this room, the center, has so many paranormal reports. For example, the door you just entered through has been known to slowly open or slam shut by unseen hands. Sudden bursts of cold air are known to come through this narrow confine, and shadows without owners lurk behind unwary caretakers as they lock up the house for the night. Which is the reason why another piece of the Asher Collection's doors was placed in this room. Now this door, the Portal Mortis, or Door of the Dead. Now these doors were actually used to bar entry into alchemists and physicians' workshops. So why then would it be put on the inside of this room? Now, unfortunately, we are not able to answer that riddle for you. Only Mrs. Winchester knows the answer to that. But she specifically instructed Mr. Asher to put it in this room. But it looks like the gates are closed. They're usually open. But I hear the secret is in the inscription to the Portal Mortis. So if I could just have one person step up and try to read the inscription for me, that would be wonderful. Who would like to step up and do it?
Quaream etiam mortium.
Loud enough so everyone can hear you.
Quaream etiam mortio mortui I radito.
Ratatouille? Sorry. It worked.
You're telling me the door's unlocked the entire time. Now, please, if I can have another brave contestant just step up and go first.
Okay.
Lock
the door.
Close the door. Now, please, everyone enter.
Just a little.
Now, we will be going in to the grand ballroom, and you will be seeing the last set of doors tonight. The Shakespeare doors.
Ooh. To be or not to be.
So please, follow me.
Do feel free to fill in all the space. We have plenty of room for all the bodies. Welcome to the grand ballroom. I hope you waltzed right in. Ballroom joke. Thank you, the one person who laughed. Anyway, good evening and welcome. My name is Dr. Agnes Brown. I am the historian of this magnificent estate. I've dedicated the last 13 years of my life to the study of Sarah Winchester, her home, and the 13 doors in the Asher collection. Behind me, you see the magnificent door number 13, the Shakespeare door. Yes, this door was named for the Shakespearean quote upon the window. Sarah Winchester had a very peculiar and particular reason for having these 13 doors installed in her house. You see, she was obsessed with speaking once again to her dearly departed husband, William. After his death, she hoped once again to contact him. And these doors would be her ticket. You see, she planned to wait until a particularly stormy night in hopes that lightning would strike the very tallest tower of the building. And if it did, the electricity would course its way from door to door to door and finally end here. Door number 13, which would then become a portal to the beyond. Now, we don't have a lightning storm tonight, ladies and gentlemen, but we do have a generator which should hopefully create the same electrical current. The thing we don't have, though, is Sarah Winchester herself. No, you see, she would have been that final link, that human element, that psychic medium, as it were. No, we don't have Sarah, but we do have a volunteer right over here. What is your name, my dear?
Tim.
Tim! Yes. Excellent, Tim, my love. Come stand right about here. So, Tim.
Yes.
Are you a brave man?
I hope so.
Yes, the answer is yes. Everyone else, we're going to help Tim out by giving him our psychic energy.
Please do, everybody.
Let's all rub our hands together and create a little static electricity.
Oh,
now, we open our hands towards Tim, wiggle your fingers at him and say, bye-bye, Tim.
Bye. Nice knowing you all.
Just kidding. Nothing terrible will happen. Oh, well, actually, I don't know. I've never done this before.
Fantastic.
So what we'll do is we give him our energy. Tim, you give your energy to the door. And let's see if we can contact a spirit. Are you ready, Tim?
I am so ready.
I am too. And here we go. Throwing the switch. Ladies and gentlemen. Tim.
Huzzah!
What?
Oh my God, it works.
Ah! It's in a thing. Oh my God.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Hi. I don't know. Where are you?
Where are you?
Winchester Mystery House, San Jose, California. Yes.
Well, anyway, I come with a message. I don't quite know what I'm looking for. Tim.
That would be this guy right here.
Oh my goodness, Tim.
Yes.
Okay. It's a little fuzzy, but under no circumstances, under no uncertain conditions, will you do that thing that you wanted to do? You never got a sense about it. Anyway.
Did you know her?
I may have, in fact.
That was shocking.
That
Tim.
was very scary.
What was the thing?
Dancing. Don't dance or sing, because if I do, it's the end of the world.
Are you sure?
I'm fairly certain.
Because we can do a duet right now.
Shall we try? All right, let's do this. I'm waiting for you.
I think you're right. It's the end of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and follow the tour guide out, and let's give Tim a big round of applause for being an amazing volunteer.
Oh, thank you.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
Happy Halloween. Of course, the Winchester Estate puts on a fun haunted house, a thrill ride through one of the most haunted places in the world. For me, I will say I felt nothing while I was in the house. No disturbances, except for the mechanical dark ride effects that were put there. No presences. Well, not inside the mansion. After midnight, the grounds were open for visitors to walk around unsupervised. I walked the gardens and the stables, and suddenly I was hit with that feeling of the uncanny. It was the silence. Here I am on a busy intersection in the middle of San Jose, and there is an eerie silence. The silence of the Winchester House. The loneliness of the Winchester House. And within that silent loneliness, the late Sarah Winchester suggested to us that something insane, something evil is trapped amongst all the fake doors and odd rooms she put in there. And it's something that endlessly and timelessly walks the halls alone. And, like the insane, it is oblivious to you, unless you make the mistake of crossing its path. And all it would take to cross this thing's path is to go back inside the Winchester Mystery House. Just because things might seem normal and ordinary doesn't mean they really are. Where all kinds of ghoulies and ghosties get to play with each other. Halloween is a night where some believe that the membrane between the spirit world and our world is at its thinnest, and we can walk with the spirits in the liminal world. Well, at least for one night. Happy Halloween, everyone. And I wanted to let you know my book is coming out November 26th, 2018. Pre-order is happening now. Now, pre-order is available worldwide on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, and you can request or find it at an independent bookstore using IndieBound or simply asking your local bookseller. Just ask them to order it for you. It is available as an ebook pre-order on Kindle, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, and Apple Books. And Amazon has a whole bunch of different places. Thanks so much for your interest in my upcoming book. It is a love letter to everything that goes bump in the night and how horror can be healing as well as thrilling. Now, people sometimes ask me where they can order the book that best supports the author. Honestly, the best possible way to support the author, pre-order the book. Pre-ordering is the single best way to show support. When you pre-order, you're letting the retailer know that you're excited about the book and that other people might be too. The best way to stay up to date on book and podcast news is to subscribe to the free newsletter, and that is on hellbentforhorror.com/book. Meanwhile, if you'd like to order the book through your local bookseller, I'm sure they'd be delighted to take your order. Now, you got to provide them with the ISBN number and release date, and they should be able to order it for you. And I have that information once again on hellbentforhorror.com/book. Thank you so much. And thanks for listening to the show. Hellbent for Horror was written and broadcast by me, S.A. Bradley, and produced by me and Lisa Gorski. You can find more on our website, hellbentforhorror.com, and I'm also on Facebook at facebook.com/hellbentforhorror, and my Twitter handle is hellbenthorror. Please hit that subscribe button to get H4H hot off the press. And if you can do a review on iTunes or whatever app you listen to us on, that really helps people get to find us. And now for some Hellbent for Horror news. The podcast is available on some more outlets now, so you can listen to H4H on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn Radio, as well as the regular iTunes, Android, and Amazon apps. And let there be swag. H4H t-shirts are now on sale. We have a store on tpublic.com with a bunch of Hellbent for Horror designs, and you can have your choice of t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, something horrible beautiful for you or that someone special. The link to the merchandise store is on our website, hellbentforhorror.com. And in the wings is a Hellbent for Horror book entitled Screaming for Pleasure. I'm currently writing it, and we're shooting for a release in the fall of 2018, so spread the word and keep your eye out. More info on that later. And until we meet again, stay hellbent.